Hello everyone, good afternoon and welcome to the BDA. BDA England's live stream. It's nice to be back here. My name is Robin Ash and my role is a BSL Equality and Rights Coordinator, and I cover the whole of the UK. So why are we here today? Why are we talking about smart meters? The BDA were very fortunate and very grateful to Smart Energy GB for some funding that allowed the BDA to set up a project. And there are several elements to this project. There's been road shows. You may have seen me visiting various places around the country on BDA Facebook. And I'd like to thank all the deaf groups and deaf clubs that have allowed me to come and visit them to talk about smart meters. And also, another part of this is live stream. So there's 2 sessions, one today and one in a few weeks, and some information videos linked on the most commonly asked questions. And we are going to sign those questions in BSL and respond to them in BSL. So I'm very delighted to be back here today, especially at the moment with the current climate. So what are smart meters? This is going to be an opportunity. After our visits, we have been asked so many questions that we are now going to pose to our special guest from the UK government, who's going to join us very shortly. But before we go any further, I'd like to let you know that the BDA live stream is on Thursday, the 20th of October at 2 p.m. So the information that we share today may change in the subsequent days or weeks as information is changing quite fast. So this information is correct as from Thursday the 20th of October 2022. This live stream will have ground rules and please follow these. First of all, we are live, which means that we are relying on technology. And also many people are relying on Wi-Fi. So it may be that your Wi-Fi falls out or technology breaks down. So just to let you know in advance, if you may be watching the screen and it looks a bit fuzzy, it could be your Wi-Fi or our Wi-Fi. So please don't worry, because this live stream will be recorded and will be on the BDA's Facebook for you to go back and watch at a later date. The picture quality, I know we're very keen on having high definition quality, but if it's a little blurry, it depends on how many people are watching it and where you're watching it from. At the moment where I am, it is absolutely pouring with rain. So I'm just hoping that we continue to have a smooth picture. So the discussion today about smart meters is an opportunity for you to watch and add any questions or comments linked to smart meters. We don't want you to go off point or talk about other issues that you may find or feel are important to you. Today's session is only about smart meters, and the person, our guest, is to talk about smart meters. So I know people are worried about the current climate, and we are understanding people's fears and sometimes anger. And we cannot accept any comments that are not taken nicely. If there are criticisms or you're making verbal criticisms that are quite nasty, we will have to remove those comments. The aim for this is to share the information with the deaf community. On my visits, I've noticed how desperate they are for that information. And it's given me an understanding of what would be needed for this live stream. There will be comments made, and I may not be able to answer them today. Please don't think that you only can comment on the live stream session. You can comment on the post at a later date, and I will come back and respond to you with an answer. Obviously, you may feel that having to comment in English is not accessible. You may be able to say something, but it may not come on screen. But there's nothing stopping you to add a BSL comment, and I will respond to you in due course. So these are the ground rules. So going back to today's session, the subject of smart meters, I'm delighted, and the BDA are very delighted, that we've been working in partnership with Smart Energy GB, but also National Energy Action. And the guest speaker we have today, when we start to question her, will explain where she is from. So will you please join me in wishing a warm welcome to Samantha.
Hi, everyone.
We need our sign language interpreter. So I'd like to introduce you to the sign language interpreter for today, Lisa Brailsford. I hope you're all well. Good. So I'd like to thank you, Samantha, for joining this session today, to joining the BDA. I mean, we've done so many different live streams, so welcome to our journey, and I'm looking forward to having this conversation with you today. So I think we'll start with a question, if you don't mind. So I think it would be great if you could tell me who you are, and what is your role?
Great, yeah, it's a real pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me along. So my name is Samantha Redfern. I'm working for BEIS, which, if you don't know, is the Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy. I can talk more about that later if of interest. I am part of the Smart Meter Implementation Programme, and I'm working in the consumer policy team. So my job title is around consumer engagement and protection. So I've been in the department for a few months, coming up to about 6 months, but I've been in the civil service for a few years now, so I'm quite familiar with the workings of government and yeah, how civil service works. So yeah, as I say, pleasure to be here, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Thank you for that, Samantha, for explaining your role and your background. It's really good to hear. I'm sure any deaf people that are watching, and myself, they may wonder what BEIS is. What does it mean? So can you expand a little bit on that, please?
Yeah, so as I said, it covers business, energy and industrial strategy. So as you might expect, smart meters are in the energy part, but the department is working on things around regulation, sending things to space, and of course a lot of work is happening at the moment in the energy market and trying to support people as much as we can there. So it's a ministerial department. Currently, as of 2:00 today, our Secretary of State is Jacob Rees-Mogg, and he is supported by five other ministers. So we report into them, as well as our permanent secretary, who heads up the department from the civil service side.
Maybe a future live stream we could talk about sending things into space, maybe.
Maybe.
You never know. Okay, well, thank you for that and explaining that. I'd like to ask you, we've been asked many questions when we've been doing these road shows, and there's also an opportunity from other people to ask questions. But one of the questions at the moment with the rollout of smart meters, why is this happening? Why is this sudden rollout of smart meters?
Yeah, it's a good question. The rollout has been began kind of around 10 years ago, so it's a long government program, and we've made some significant progress during that time. Over half of meters now in Great Britain are smart, so a little way to go, but yeah, the rollout continues. It's really a part of many things, but partly it's just about upgrading our national infrastructure. Smart meters will make our energy system more efficient, more flexible. We hope it will enable us to use more renewable energy, and ultimately that will help us achieve net zero greenhouse gas emissions by the target of 2050. So it's, as I say, it's a long program and there's still a way to go, but it's all to work to upgrade the system and achieve net zero, which is certainly what motivates me.
Thank you for that. I would like to ask why you have a meter underneath your stairs and you also have a display. Why is that so important, that display?
Yeah, so the smart meter itself, as I said, is what is part of this upgrade. The in-home display, or you might see it written as the IHD, is that kind of consumer-facing piece of equipment. And that's really important because it shows you what energy you're using in pounds and pence. It can show you what things are using the most energy and where you can turn things off. So it's about energy saving and ultimately reducing, your carbon footprint. It's the net benefit of this program is a government benefit, but it's also a consumer benefit. It's been shown to save you money if you have that screen going and you can track what you're using. So that's a really important part of the smart meter, though it's not the smart meter itself. The smart meter is what's under your stairs. So it's slightly different to the in-home display, which you quite rightly point out.
I think that's a very good description of it. And I think that's where a lot of people get confused with the term smart meter, because they assume that in-home display is the smart meter when it's actually the bit that's under your stairs. A very common question, a very common comment of that sort of confusion between the two. That display, how does it actually work?
Yeah, so it communicates with the smart meter, and it should show near real-time energy usage. Your energy supplier should link it to your tariff, which is how they work out the amount of money you're paying each day. So really, it's just a kind of additional tool to show you what you're using, which traditional meters aren't able to do. And as I say, it's that really important part of the consumer experience of smart meter. So I would encourage everyone to pay attention and to get in contact with your supplier if you have lost it or it's not working as it should, as I know some do.
Thank you for that explanation. I think we'll just pause and see if there's any questions in the chat. There is a question that's been posed. Can we display that? Is there a downside to having a smart meter?
I don't think there is. I suppose I have to say that, but I know there are concerns around having a smart meter, data concerns, concerns around the installation itself, but we work really hard to alleviate those issues. I can talk more about the kind of data and privacy mitigations we have if that's helpful. But really, a smart meter, as I say, is upgrading your meter as it is now. You have the power to engage with it as you like. It shouldn't impact your life much differently to a traditional smart meter. It's the in-home display, as we said, and that national upgrade that is the really important part. But I can't say that there's a downside to having a smart meter. There are lots of benefits, which I'd love to talk about later as we go through as well.
Thank you. There is another question which is relevant. Can I mention this because it was talked about earlier? So can you explain what automated metering infrastructure is, AMI, and how does this work? Very good question.
It's a good question, and one I might have to take away and discuss with Robin afterwards, and maybe he can add it to the FAQs. I will confess not to know the ins and outs of that, and I wouldn't want to give any incorrect information there. So I can take that away and let you know.
Thank you for that, Samantha. So if you can find that answer out, then I will put that as a response to this question in Facebook, and I will also include it in the FAQs that will be developed shortly. Thank you very much for those questions, Sean. Any other questions from anybody before we move on? No. Okay, thank you for those two very good questions. We appreciate it. Always more new questions that come out. We do have some more questions that we're going to pose to Samantha. A lot of people talk about how the smart meter reports the usage to people, to their companies. And obviously people are very concerned about hackers, people accessing personal information that's held on these smart meters. Can you sort of myth bust some of these preconceived ideas about smart meters? Sorry, we lost you for a moment then, Samantha.
Sorry, yeah, I'm back. I didn't hear the question, sorry.
Sorry, I think it's probably a Wi-Fi thing. I think you might have froze. Anyway, so with the smart meters, we have the smart meters and the in-home display, and they both hold information. Can hackers or people, break into these devices and take personal information from them?
It's a good question, and one we also get a lot, and I understand the concern, but I would love today to just say that, the rollout has been designed with the UK's top security experts from industry, from government, and including the National Cyber Security Centre, which is actually part of GCHQ. So that's a bit of a badge of confirmation there. The smart meter network operates separately from the internet. It's via a secure system that only authorized parties can access. So that's, your energy supplier or your network operator, and only they can access it. They only measure the amount of energy you use. So no personal details, your name, your address, your bank details, none of that is stored on there, and it's not going to be submitted or transmitted by the smart meter. So I appreciate the new technology, the new concern, but we've done a lot of work to ensure that they are extremely safe, and I hope that alleviates some of your concerns around that.
Thank you for that, Samantha. That leads me nicely on to the next question. People have concerns about when they have a smart meter and they have that in-home display. Are energy companies able to spy on people? Are they able to, spy on what they're doing?
Again, I understand the question, but no, we take data privacy really seriously. There's a strict data access and privacy framework just around smart meters and energy use. So households can control what data they're able to share with their energy provider. So that's energy consumption data, and for what purposes that's shared as well. Though I will note that's except you can't choose whether to share for things like billing. That's a necessary data to share. But you can kind of change the granularity if you'd like to. But this framework that we are adhered to details the level of access that the energy suppliers, network operators, and any third parties can access. And it also establishes the purpose for which the data is collected and makes sure that consumers have choice around that data. And that's something that my team holds energy suppliers to account for or monitors this. And it's something that, as I say, is really, really important to us to make sure that balance is right.
Thank you, Samantha, for that. Just check. Can you hear everything that's going on all right? Yes, he's asking the interpreter because you froze a little while there, Samantha. So,
oh, sorry.
Everything was fine. We could still hear you. So it was fine. Because you did freeze on screen a little bit. Luckily, the interpreter was able to continue to follow your voice. Deaf people have been asking, especially that's in the news, that these can affect your health, they can give you cancer, and people are blaming smart meters. Some deaf people may have a cochlear implant and says that smart meter will affect their cochlear implants. Is that the case?
So thank you for the question. The smart meters use radio waves to allow those remote readings to be taken from the gas and electricity meters. But just to assure you today, there's no evidence that radio waves produced by smart meters pose any health risk. That's confirmed by Public Health England, who carried out an extensive programme of research to explore exposure from smart meters. And these results confirmed that exposure to radio waves was well below international guidelines, and it's likely to. These radio waves are likely to be lower than for most everyday, other everyday devices like mobile phones. There's a. I know you said you're close with Smart Energy GB, and I know they have some information on their website as well, which provides some information about the electromagnetic field and around smart meters, which I believe are accessible as well. So worth checking out their website.
Maybe something to add in the FAQs. Something I think that may be worthwhile. But thank you for that suggestion, Samantha. I appreciate it. Talking about smart meters, how they impact on the environment. How does having a smart meter help us reduce the impact on our environment?
Yeah, so partly it's around that piece of the infrastructure upgrade to make our infrastructure more and our energy system more flexible and efficient. It will enable us to do things like see when peak times are and plan for these, so we can plan, enable to use more renewable energy and reduce reliance on fossil fuels. And as I've said before as well, that in-home display piece, this provides you a better understanding of your usage, so you can see where you might be able to make small changes to reduce your energy consumption and therefore lower your energy emissions. So yeah, that can lead to both lower energy bills and a smaller carbon footprint. So there's a few ways that smart meters can really help the environment.
Thank you for that. Just to check, are there any questions in the chat from Facebook or YouTube? No, not at the moment. I have plenty of questions, so that's fine. So a lot of people talk about when I do my visits, they ask me, do I have to have a smart meter installed? Must I have a smart meter installed? And if I say no, I don't want one, would I get in trouble? And what happens when my old meter, if I don't have a new smart meter replaced at the time, if my old meter breaks down, then what happens?
Yeah.
Sorry, it looks like we've lost Samantha for a moment. Maybe it's a Wi-Fi problem. We just hope that she'll rejoin us, and apologies to everyone. We're just waiting for her to rejoin. Whilst we're waiting, oh, here she is. Hi, Samantha. Sorry. Did you hear the question?
I did, yeah. I'm sorry about that.
Okay, so maybe my question frightened you off.
I'm in the office, so it should work, but anyway. So your question to whether, smart meters are compulsory. They're not compulsory. It is a choice about whether you receive a smart meter or not. Obviously, I'm going to recommend that households do get a smart meter, and the personal benefits as well as the countrywide benefits, hopefully, are clear. If you do refuse the smart meter, it might be the case that there are some tariffs you won't be able to access, though that depends on the energy supplier. But if there are further benefits, I suppose, of getting that smart meter and not refusing. If you are to refuse a smart meter, or if you do need to get your old meter replaced, I should say, you can ask your supplier to install it without the smart functionality. So it can just operate as a traditional meter. I won't go into too much detail about that, but it's something that you can speak to your energy supplier about and see if they can do this. But as I say, I hope, throughout this live stream and the FAQs that the reasons you might be concerned about a smart meter might be mitigated, because I do think the benefits are really clear, and I really would encourage you not to be nervous of that. But of course I would say that.
Thank you for that, Samantha. A lot of people have asked and said, when they're looking at their meter and looking at their displays, everything is different. Everyone is different, and each supplier has better or worse in-home displays than the other. Why is this?
Yeah, so I suppose it's because these suppliers have their own manufacturers of in-home displays. There are fundamental standards that we would expect all displays to have. Hopefully each supplier would give you information about how to use your specific in-home display, which would be more helpful than kind of generic advice. But it's part of the nature of the rollout that some suppliers will be different to others, but the fundamental process of the meters should be the same, and similarly with the in-home displays. So it shouldn't be anything that affects you day to day, and it's just the nature of energy suppliers' supply chains.
Thank you. A lot of people who have said, yes, they're interested in having a smart meter installed, and they want to ask their suppliers, but who do they ask? Where do they ask? And what is the process?
Yeah, good question. So it is all done through your energy supplier. Hopefully, if you go onto their website, it is clear. It might say book an installation or contact us to get a smart meter installation. Only today I was looking at the Smart Energy GB page about how you can contact your supplier, and they've got a really good source of information there. Not only the telephone numbers, but also details of different ways by which you can contact them. So won't get this wrong here. So it's things like speech to text services or a relay app, which might help some of your viewers today get in contact with them. But yeah, in short, it's contact your energy supplier. They will hopefully be happy to hear from you, and you can get an installation booked in as soon as is appropriate.
Thank you for that explanation of the process. So if anybody wants more information about that, I can send you a link to how to request a smart meter installation. And also there's a BDA video on how to ask for a smart meter installation, which is delivered in BSL.
Brilliant.
A lot of people have asked, when they've asked for an installation, then how long does it take from the moment they request an installation to it actually being carried out?
Again, it would be dependent on your energy supplier and their capacity of installations. It's in their interest to do it as soon as possible. So hopefully they'd have appointments soon in the diary and soon available. But I wouldn't be able to necessarily put a time that they must do it. But I would expect that each supplier would have slots in your area in the not too distant future.
Thank you for that. So it varies basically depending on supplier to supplier, and they may just have to wait while their suppliers, carrying out their program.
Yeah, I think it would depend on supplier and also where you live. But I would direct you to contact your energy supplier.
Just to clarify, contacting your supplier means your electricity or gas supplier. Is that what you mean?
Exactly. Yeah. Apologies. Yeah. So I suppose a lot of domestic consumers have the same electricity and gas supplier, but if it is different, then contact both of those suppliers.
Thank you for that clarification. A question that's been asked is, how do we learn about the in-home display, how it works, if they don't provide an interpreter at the time of installation, which is a common response from the deaf community? Installations are taking place without interpreters, and therefore people are not getting that access to information. Is this something that deaf people are allowed to access, interpreter for the installation?
As I understand it, the Equalities Act makes it a requirement that reasonable adjustments are made to ensure that you've got that equal access to opportunities. So it's something that I can completely appreciate would be really helpful. As I understand it, many suppliers make use of video relay at that point of installation, though I appreciate that might not be the case for all installations. You may be able to nominate someone to manage your account or be there with you when you get that installation, and you should have details of the installation well in advance. And again, I'm going to rely on Smart Energy GB here, but they have lots of information on their website in all sorts of formats and indeed languages, which gives information about how you can benefit from your smart meter. So I'd encourage you to go there as well. More generally, if you feel like you're not getting the service that you feel you deserve, and indeed I think you do deserve from your energy supplier, I'd recommend contacting someone like Citizens Advice, or indeed if no further action was taken, the Energy Ombudsman, who fight for consumer rights in that way. And we'd want everyone to be able to benefit from their smart meter. So I absolutely appreciate and recognise that issue.
Thank you for that. So just to clarify, so if a deaf person wants a smart meter installed and they want access to the information on how to use your in-home display, make that known to your supplier, and then it can be either done remotely or in person. Is that correct, Samantha?
That's what I would expect, and that's what I would hope. As I say, Citizens Advice may be able to help you further, and Smart Meter GB may have more information. It might also be worth checking whether you're on the energy supplier's priority service register, which just highlights to them certain consumers with issues they might want to be brought to their attention. So it might be worth looking into that as well.
Thank you for mentioning that as well. That's been useful. Before we move any further, is there any more questions from anybody in the audience today? I think everybody's been very keenly watching what's been saying. Yeah, and maybe the questions they wanted to pose I've already pinched because they're quite common questions that have been asked. Apologies to the audience. I hope you're enjoying watching this. So now we're talking about the feedback from my visits. As part of the project with Smart Energy GB and that funding, which we really do appreciate, that we have been able to visit so many groups that may not have understood the information. So we've been able to deliver that in BSL. But the common things that are coming out, the common themes in every single visit, every time I meet somebody and talk about smart meters, are the following. So if you're okay, if I share a comment made by somebody, this person said their energy supplier really wasn't accessible. They've really struggled, didn't know where to go, didn't know who to contact. I've told them I'm deaf. I've told them this in advance, but then they still tell me I've got to phone or use a chat bot where English is not my first language and I'm not confident in English. So how do I make contact when they're just obsessed on telephones or online chat bots? I don't have access to that, so it makes me struggle. And this is something that's come up several times from members of the audience.
No, I really appreciate hearing that experience, and in my role as concerned with the consumer experience and consumer engagement in this rollout, it's really, really important to have these conversations, and I really appreciate all that feedback. I might be repeating myself, so apologies, but I think some of the things I can suggest would be, as I say, looking into whether the priority services register might be important. Perhaps nominating someone to be on your account with you who might be able to support you in that, though I appreciate that's not an ideal solution. As I said, the Smart Energy GB website has lots of information about different accessible routes you can contact your energy supplier. So I'd encourage you to look at that page as well. And ultimately, if you're finding that this isn't working for you, as I said, Citizens Advice is there for all consumers, and they have some great support. And were further action to be taken, there is always the option of the Energy Ombudsman to hold suppliers to account in that way as well. But I'm really enjoying this conversation today, and I'm definitely it will be on my mind, and in my role I will take that forward and make that known.
Maybe it would be useful after I finish my visits to collate these experiences, these like individual cases of particular issues, and highlight these larger barriers, the bigger barriers that deaf people are facing, and then share that with you, Samantha.
That would be brilliant. And I appreciate, I suppose, I'm here from smart metering today, but some of these issues go much deeper than that. But this is the right department for that. So I'd be able to perhaps put you in touch with the right people as well. But that would be brilliant. And yeah, really appreciate all your experience, and anecdotal evidence is still evidence. So yeah, I would really, really welcome that.
Thank you, Samantha. So for anybody that's watching, if you have any experiences that you wish to share, if you feel you don't want to put it on this chat, you can always contact Robin Ash at the BDA, and we can share that with BEIS. And it's important to get this feedback heard. And also, what do we want to see improved? Because at the moment, technology is improving all the time, and things can be made more accessible. So any solutions to these problems would also be useful, and then we can share those with Samantha. So the next question that's been raised by many is, with the government, I mean, you work under a government department, does the government provide or force these suppliers to provide an accessible way for me to connect with them in BSL? Because as you mentioned earlier about the Equalities Act and so forth, does that actually mean that the electricity and gas suppliers are expected to provide an accessible service, that they shouldn't then argue who's responsible for providing that? Sorry, difficult question.
It feels like a big question, but it's a really good question. So, I mean, my understanding of the Equalities Act is that energy suppliers are required to make reasonable adjustments so that anyone with a disability is able to access those same opportunities, and they must be able to accommodate any situation which may present difficulties. I suppose what I wouldn't want to speak to is how that's necessarily implemented in the general legal routes and things like that. But even off conversations like this today, it's definitely something that I'll continue to be thinking about, and I can work with our team that works directly with the energy suppliers as well to think about it too, as I'm sure indeed they have been, though I appreciate there's always more you could do. So yeah, that's my understanding, but I appreciate that when you leave it as well with reasonable adjustments, there's a bit of room for maneuver there. So I completely appreciate the challenge.
Thank you for that explanation, Samantha. And from the BDA, a reasonable adjustment, what we would like to or expect to see would be BSL access in terms of a remote video interpreting service. Some electricity and gas companies do provide that, and they have that access, and therefore all should have it to make it fair, because it is a reasonable adjustment for those people that use British Sign Language. So I think some encouragement needs to be made to those organisations that don't provide that access for deaf people.
I would agree. I would really agree. And, as I say, my role as kind of consumer protection and engagement, we don't want that to end, with any consumers to go without having that engagement and engaging with their smart meter, with their in-home display. So I completely agree. And maybe it's something we can talk about offline.
Great, thank you. I look forward to that discussion. Thank you. A clarification question. If an installation is taking place and the electricity or gas meter is being replaced for a smart meter, if I tell them in advance, they should be prepared for me to be deaf, because when I ask for an interpreter, or are they allowed to visit even though I've requested the services of an interpreter? Are they allowed to visit without one, install it and leave without me accessing that information? And if they do, what should I do?
Again, it's a really good question. I'm not going to pretend that I know the exact answer, but it's something I will take away in terms of that, the enforcement of that obligation, because I completely appreciate that. I would again maybe direct you to Citizens Advice, but as I say, I will I will take this away and I'll find the answer out for you, and I will let you know so you can share.
Thank you, Samantha. For those in the audience, for your information, this is a common occurrence when deaf people have asked for interpreters at the point of installation. They're not being provided, and deaf people are frustrated because they don't understand and they're not being explained to about the in-home displays. So you may feel a bit unsure whether to push this point or challenge this point, and it is always worth complaining if you don't feel you're getting the same level of service and the same level of access. As a hearing person, you need to feed that back to your suppliers so that they can improve things for other consumers. If they don't know, then how can they make improvements? So if you're struggling to make that complaint or offer that feedback, there will be some templates provided that you can fill in to say what happened and when it happened and where, and how you can also get your names on the priority register as a deaf person and the need for communicating in BSL. So please do contact the BDA. Please do not keep this to yourselves. If you don't feel you've been given the correct service or the correct level of service, then please complain. Okay, so just checking if there are any more questions in the chat. No, I think that's it. So I wondered if I could ask Samantha if you've got any conclusions that you'd like to draw from today's session, from this live stream session. You know, we've just almost come to the end. We've allowed an hour for this. Is there anything that you'd like to add in conclusion to this?
Yeah, there's a couple of points that we spoke about in our brief pre-meet before this, and just that I thought it would just be helpful to clarify. So one of the points I believe you raised was around prepayment meters, and can I get a smart meter in prepayment mode? And you absolutely can. And I just wanted as well to say that, you know, there's extra benefits of having a smart meter that's a prepayment meter. I actually have one myself for my gas, so can attest to that. So you don't need to top up with a key card anymore, you know, or go to a pay point. You can do it online, on an app or on the website. So there's no gas card or electricity key required. You can also look on your phone to see when your credit might be running out, which is really helpful. And electricity suppliers can also better support you if you run into things like emergency credit, if you forget to top up, things like that. So just wanted to highlight the specific benefits of the smart meters in prepayment, which I think are really clear. And yeah, as I say, I can confirm that from my own personal experience. Great. And the other point,
that's useful information. Thank you, Rebecca. Yeah, Samantha. Sorry, thank you, Samantha.
No worries. I just I thought whilst I'm here, I'll share that too. And the other point I thought I might raise was around people that are renting, so that aren't homeowners. We've been doing lots of work around this, and just to confirm to your viewers today that you do absolutely have the right to a smart meter if you are a tenant. It's there's some caveats. So if it requires work around the house, changes to the walls or the stairs, then there's a bit of difference there. But it's worth that you ask your landlord or let them know, but you absolutely have the right to request a smart meter as a tenant if you are the bill payer. So that's something that I know a lot of people ask about, and something that I would I'm pleased to confirm today.
That's really useful information, Samantha. Thank you. I'll add that onto the FAQs as one of the questions as well, because that's quite commonly asked by a lot of people. So thank you. So before we draw this live stream to an end, is there any more questions from Facebook or YouTube? No, there's no more questions. I'm sure when the audience watches this on catch up, we will get some more questions. So you're more than welcome to add any questions to the chat afterwards. And if there are any, I will forward those questions to you, Samantha, and then respond to them in due course. Some information we may not be able to answer because there isn't an answer to those questions, but I will add some comments as we go along. So I'd really would like to take this opportunity to thank you, Samantha, for allowing me to question you in such detail as I have today. And we're coming to an end now, so just thank you very much for your time today.
No worries. Thank you so much for having me along, and I'm really looking forward to digging into even more detail about this. And it's great to meet you, and to hopefully start a communication between us to alleviate some of the concerns that are specific to some of your viewers today. So yeah, I've really enjoyed it. Good questions, some challenging questions, but anything I can do to help going forward from this as well, please do let me know. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Samantha. Sorry. Before we disappear, we have some important information to share with everybody. So once this live stream event has finished, a little later, there will be a BSL video about a survey. Don't worry, I know it's difficult in English, but it will be in BSL on how the survey takes place. And there are some BSL videos that have been created by Smart Energy GB on how to complete this survey. I will add the link. Please, I would encourage as many people as possible to complete that survey after you've watched the information shared on this video, and then share that. So please, I encourage you, as many people as possible, to do that feedback, because it is so important. So the live stream is coming to a close now, and there will be another live stream. Maybe Samantha, you can come back and watch us again, or if you had enough of me.
Not at all. I will dial in.
That's great. And the next live stream session, we're going to have another guest speaker called Molly Chambers. She's from National Energy Action, and I've worked very closely with Molly, and she's been so supportive as part of this project, and I really do appreciate that support from National Energy and Smart Energy GP. So we've invited her from National Energy Action to answer some of these questions that may not be relative to Samantha and your area of work, but are more relative to National Energy Action. So please, anybody that's interested, you're more than welcome to join us. If you have any concerns, please do join us. And this will take place on Thursday, the 3rd of November at 2 p.m. on BDA Facebook. So I hope to see you all there. And I'd really just like to close by thanking Samantha for your participation today. It's been really worthwhile. And thank you to Lisa, who's interpreted throughout today's session. And also I'd like to thank the BDA colleague, Peter, who's been working very hard behind the scenes, making sure that this session runs smoothly. And thank you to all the audience that's watched it live and will watch it on catch up. Please make sure this information is shared. It's very important to share this with the deaf community as it's accessible in BSL. So take care, everyone, and goodbye.